We'll call the Mandan Park District Board meeting to order. Today is May 12th, 2025. We're at the City Hall. Any additions or deletions to the agenda?
None.
Okay. At this point, we'll take any public communication from visitors. Cole, this is now a requirement, one of the legislative updates. Are you going to talk about that later?
Yeah, I'll just touch on it at a legislative update, sorry.
Okay. Okay. Seeing nobody at this point to participate in that, I'll close that portion of the meeting. Can we look to approve April 14th, 2025 regular meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve April 14th, 2025 regular meeting minutes.
Motion by Commissioner Freilich.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Melhoff. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Moving into item number 1, request from Mandan Baseball Club to add a new shed garage to the Ball Diamonds. Hi, Dave.
Hi. President Meske, Commissioners. Tonight, the Mandan Baseball Club is here to request to put a shed on the east alleyway between Diamonds 9 and 10. Rob Oster from the Mandan Baseball Club will answer any questions, present anything he has to let you guys know cost and time frame and that kind of stuff. So I'll let Rob talk about it.
I know a few of us were able to tour that a few weeks ago, and I know Cole and Dave kind of pointed out what they were thinking, and it looks like it would fit in pretty good. So, Rob, you want to kind of give us a plan?
It's a simple 36 by 20 shed. We do have the existing shed. We kind of want to remove those because they're so old and rusty in the main entrance, so we want to clean those up. So this would be just a building to store all our stuff as far as screens, mats, mounds, balls, brooms, turf rakes, all that stuff, just to get it out of the way and put it over on the east side where it's not a focal point coming into the main park between Memorial and the complex. So I think you guys probably have the spec drawing on it and whatnot. It's pretty simple. So I guess if you guys have any questions, you for me on that. Sure.
I have one. It's going to match with colors with the rest of.
Absolutely,
Okay,
same color scheme. That green and taupe colors we got down there. Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
So you have some drawings there, and I guess kind of see where they want to put it there. Those of you that weren't able to be at the tour, I agree. Those other sheds they had good use and good life out of them, and they looked a lot nicer when they went up than they do now. But
yeah, they've served their purpose for sure.
Yeah. So, any other questions for Rob? Or
Yeah,
Dave?
I do. So will this sit entirely? I know, Dave, you thought that maybe it'd sit up against the fence, or how is it going to sit in that area?
Essentially, where that fence is on the very east side, the front of the building where the overhead garage doors are would be right up against that fence.
Okay.
Then the fence would go away, so that building, in the sense, would serve as a fence.
Yeah.
So the
okay.
fence would go to the building, and it all would be enclosed just as it is. So.
Perfect. Thanks.
Are you going to have a cement foundation right there?
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't have that in my estimates because I don't have that back yet. But yes, they would absolutely be concrete foundation according to the specs of what the city wants for a shovel footing and so on and so forth. So.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions for Rob? Well, Rob, we've worked really closely with Mandan Baseball, and you guys have always done a really nice job, and you've also paid for a lot of the things too. So we do appreciate that. I think this will fit in nice and it'll look really nice. We don't have well water out there anymore, or no reason to, I guess, water that area with the turf. So I think it'll look nice for a while.
Absolutely.
So, what are the board's wishes?
I'll make a motion to recommend approving the Mandan Baseball Club to build a new storage shed over on the east side there.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Melhoff.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Scott. Any further discussion? Being we are not paying for this, and Mandan Baseball is, we do a roll call? Or we don't need to do a roll call, okay? We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Just a little background too. We'll be constructing this towards the end of the season. And then we'll be getting rid of the 2 sheds. We'll be purposing those somewhere else. So then those will be out by, I would say, sometime August, September. They'll be gone. So, thanks.
Dave, a real quick question. I was out there goofing off when they were practicing. The little leagues are going to still play there, right? Correct? On the
Yep. So all the leagues that we have, between the 5-year-olds all the way up to the Legion kids, they're all going to utilize the whole complex. Basically, between 9 through 12, everything's going to get utilized down there. We're just scheduling it out right now with the All-Stars and the league and then all that kind of stuff. So, but yep, everything will get utilized.
If you haven't had a chance to go up there yet, take a quick trip and do that. It looks really nice.
That's why I skipped, because I'm there often.
Okay, moving on to item number 2. Consider for approval capital improvements to golf operations. Cole and Garrett.
President Gumesky and Commissioners, as you know, last month we rejected the cost estimate and proceed with EAPC to move forward with construction designs due to the cost. And at that time, we told you that we'd come back this month to come up with a summary of some ideas which Garrett and his staff have worked together in that spreadsheet. I'm going to let Garrett kind of talk about those items in a minute, but the total cost that we're estimating is around $1.1 million. In the back of those Excel spreadsheet that Garrett put together for improvements, there's a highlighted in the financials as far as where the dollars would come from. There's $963,000 currently sitting in that vision fund with another $150,000 to be transferred in 25. So that will give us enough funds that we will not have to finance any of the improvements, and then they will be paid for out of this year's budget. If for some reason, due to weather or other unrelated items, maybe it's deliverables of materials, we may have to come back in December and have those funds transferred into January. But the goal would be to get as many outdoor amenities done in 2025 and then start the fall project with indoor facility improvements. There'll be a few things that are indoor, such as the Mandan Muni. Some of those may be able to start this late summer, fall. All the items that we're talking about are going to be itemized separately, so they're completely different projects where we would then not have to work through the bid requirements. It was approved up to $250,000 is what the new amendment for capital projects that require an engineer and or an architect for the projects. So any questions you have for me before I turn over to Garrett to kind of give a summary as far as all these estimates? Last comment, I guess, to add would be, as we did present it to Commissioner Scott, where we did have a golf portfolio meeting, walk through all these items, and I think it's just a good summary as far as benefiting both golf courses, being prudent with the dollars and the tax dollars that we receive. And again, all these dollars have been generated from the golf course, from our revenues, and allocated towards the Vision Fund. So it's nice to see those dollars be regenerated back into the golf course. I'll let Garrett summarize.
Cole, real quick here. I just thought of it now, and I apologize. Adjusting that new hole at Muni Golf Course, is that on here? I don't see it.
So those funds are reimbursed by the Lower Heart Water Resource District. So as we pay for those costs, we will track those, and then when that assessment comes back for the funding for the Lower Heart Water Resource District for that levee work, those costs will be reimbursable through there.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, Garrett.
Good evening, Commissioners. Well, the short summary of this project, I guess, is we've kind of looked at every option, from building a new shop down on the south end of the golf course to renovating our current shop. And the overarching theme is running into roadblocks, both logistical construction and fiscal constraints on that. So we've pivoted in the name of fiscal responsibility, and I think that we've put together a pretty good plan that can serve our needs. Rather than one centralized shop location, we can piecemeal together some improvements to golf facilities at both Mandan Municipal and Prairie West and fit our staff needs without taking on a financial burden that we don't need to for our operations. So we've itemized it based on area and priority level. Some of the projects would work congruently together, where as you do concrete, you do asphalt, things like that. So our biggest priority is adding space in different facilities and then improving some of our surfaces. Our cart storage needs to be addressed. That would be the number one thing that we would do: get concrete, a new fence, improve that area, keep our carts cleaner, store it securely. And then after that, we'd be redoing the asphalt, basically from 10 tee box at Prairie West over to the clubhouse. That's in pretty bad disrepair the way it is. And then after our project on holes 11 and 12, it was damaged even more, and it's time to replace that. a lot of these projects could be happening simultaneously. Say, while we're working on cart storage, we could be improving some of our other outbuildings. The cart storage building at Mandan Municipal, as well as the fertilizer storage building at Prairie West, are both buildings that were moved on after they had reached the end of their useful life elsewhere in the Park District or the city of Mandan. So they've definitely had their years of use. So as we replace those structures, they'd be non-heated, non-insulated. We'd run power to them, but basically pole barns with concrete that would allow us storage space to keep our equipment, supplies, fertilizer, golf carts secure. As we were doing that, that would open up, alleviate space to go to the next steps of renovating our current shop. Adding heat at both Mandan Municipal and Prairie West shops where we don't have heated workspaces now, cleaning up those areas, insulating them, and really improving those facets of our operation. So adding the space that we need, eventually working our way into the inside where in the winter we could renovate our current break room, add space, add lockers for staff, things like we don't have a washer and dryer at Prairie West or even a kitchen sink or break room for our staff. So it would essentially be staged outside, inside in areas that were easily accessible to not interrupting our operations for winter improvements.
A couple of questions, Garrett. I see a lot of concrete on here. Would the plan be to bring concrete contractors in and do all of that at once, or
The plan would be to itemize those areas and try to get one contractor, whoever would win the bid on that, to do as much of the concrete work at once as possible.
and then do you foresee this being, I guess, a big distraction for golfers out there? I mean, as far as
I think there'll certainly be minor inconveniences, but we'll try to schedule that around major events. They're all areas that don't interfere with daily play. The cart storage, we may have to reroute cart traffic from 9 Green to 10T around the driving range where that path is, things like that, but nothing that we can't handle.
okay. Obviously, we're building things that's going to cause some disruption, but okay. Any other questions for Garrett?
And then President Meskin, Commissioners, just to, even though it's under the $250,000 bid limit, our policies requires that anything over $10,000 to get multiple bids to compare with. So we will be getting soliciting bids from each item that you see here, hoping that we can have multiple bids, see what's best interest for the Park District, and then award all of it at one time to whichever area that they're bidding for. So we do get bids, as I wanted to clarify.
Okay.
The one thing I'm super proud of Garrett and whatnot, but in addition, this time, he included his staff in a lot of the coming up with ideas. And I think that's always important to help them feel like they're part of the decision-making process. And so he got ideas from many different staff and then put the final list together based on that. So I commend you for that, Garrett.
Thank you. Yeah, staff had a lot of invaluable input for that to get us what we need to do in this project, no doubt.
Anything else for Garrett? Okay. Board's wishes.
I would move to approve the proceeding with the list of improvements as presented in the amount of $1,110,000 for upgrades to Prairie West and Mandan municipal golf courses.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Scott, second by Commissioner Melhoff. Any further discussion? Commissioner Scott,
Aye.
Commissioner Melhoff,
Aye.
Commissioner Freilich,
Aye.
Commissioner Mutter.
Aye.
Aye for me as well. Thank you, Garrett.
Thank you, Commissioners. Much appreciated.
Moving on to item number 3. A lot happened at the legislative session. Cole, if you want to give us the recap, please.
Yeah, so just some highlights in your packet, demonstrate some of the things. As you know, I represent NDRPA as our public policy chair, so for the last 8 sessions we've been participating. So I just wanted to give a quick summary of some of the things that will impact the Park District. Obviously, we are well aware of property taxes being imposed. We are working on that right now as 3% caps are into our budget process. The budget portfolios were sent out to everybody. If there's dates that don't work for you in June that have been sent to you, please let me know. We could kind of work around all 3 schedules, along with Terry, I guess 4 of us. Really, the impact there, as we mentioned, the 3% is going to be what we need to communicate and what we're working with both city schools and the county is that it's 3% caps on our budgets, not on the valuation. So when home valuations are being impacted and there's special assessments being added to it, that's not part of that 3% cap to our budget. So I think ideally, the concept would be if my taxes are $1, next year it should be $1.03. That's not necessarily true when there's assessments that don't have a maximum levy on that. So we're trying to make sure we all are communicating that to the public when we go through this process. The Cooperative Purchase Authority, that's been brought before us many times where our lawn mowing equipment or specialty items that we have, we do a lot of state procurement where we go on the state procurement, it's already been pre-bid in advance. We buy vehicles, trailers, equipment, things of that nature there. Now we have the authority to go outside the state and participate with those groups. We won't go outside the state as far as in our city limits or in the state. Obviously, if we have the ability to get a quote from them here, we will get that quote and support our local businesses. But at the same time, there are things that are outside of our state that get brought in here that we don't have any option on specialty items. If we were to go with a cooperative purchasing with anybody outside the state of North Dakota, we would have to have a joint powers agreement with them. So we talked about that at our leadership meeting this morning. If there's any pipe equipment that we may be looking at in 26 or beyond, at least get with a company called Sourcewell, which they're a very large cooperative purchasing agreement. We just got to download their joint powers agreement, bring it before the board, have a motion by the board that if you support us signing up with that group, and then we would be able to proceed with any type of purchases with that. As you talked about earlier, public comments, we've been ahead of the game. We allow public comments. We don't necessarily have a written policy. I mean, it's stated at the bottom of the agenda. It summarizes exactly how we handle it, and it always is limited. I did change that limited it to 3 minutes if you just kind of tweaked it, and that's kind of what really got implemented. There were some other entities across the state that weren't having public comment, so we actually have been doing it for many years, so I don't see a whole lot of change. Please review that public communication policy that we have on our agenda, and then maybe we'll present it back at a future meeting, or we'll have it at our July retreat like we do most of the time with policy changes. And then at that time, we can then build it into our standard operating procedures for the district and then be able to update it there. But I think overall, we have a pretty good public policy comment, our communication policy already in place.
I think we could turn that into a policy pretty easy.
Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong, it has to be on an agenda item that they
Correct.
or
Yep.
be at that meeting or the follow-up meeting. Is that correct?
Yep,
Okay.
that is correct. Bonding, we don't really, as a park district, do a whole lot of elections for bonds, but just in case we do ever want to do a bond for a large tax increase, it requires a vote. It can only be held during the primary general. You see a lot of that with school districts with their bonds for their schools. We haven't never done one in my tenure. We've done a sales tax one, but if we were, we couldn't have a special election. That's really what's changed. Before you could have a special election. The bid threshold, as I mentioned earlier, has gone up to $250,000. Signature threshold for petitions to be on the ballot. Remember last year when the city had the ability to change their signature requirement and we as the park district had to still stay at that 300? We had worked with the League of Cities and we appreciate their assistance and we got that put into play. Now we will have to abide by whatever the city signs off on. So I can't remember what that signature is, but I think it's right around 150. Don't quote me on that one, but it's much less than what it used to be for petitions. As far as the audits, doesn't really have any impact to a board. It's just when you have an open records request, sometimes our audits are required to be submitted to the state, and then sometimes the general public asks questions about related to our audit. They're going to delegate that back to the local municipality, which makes total sense. And then as far as the other components here, as far as transparency, it just is financial and personal interest mandated for park board candidates. Not sure what changes has happened in that specifically, but it was just worded in there where it had city, counties, and schools. And then we've always just fallen under the governance of a city, and I think it's just been interpreted that way.
Has it always been on the Secretary of State's website, though?
Not for park board. Okay. It's always been kind of included because many park boards are under the city governance as far as, so that's why that just got added this year. Obviously, state parks, we've had some grant fundings over the years where we haven't been able to get that. The last two bienniums, we've been able to secure grant funding. This year, there's no dollars in there. And then as far as the retirement changes, doesn't affect the Mandan Park District. Specifically, obviously, that we don't have a defined benefit. We have a defined contribution, but it just kind of spells it out that if we wanted to ever join their defined contribution, we could. But we're quite happy with where we're at here today. And then just insurance and liabilities, just some kind of cleaning up some communication internally between the state, North Dakota Insurance Reserve, and their state fire and tornado administration. Doesn't really impact us. But as you know, we got the daylight savings time bill removed. That was going to be a big implication to the park district for all of our youth facilities and just access to them after hours. And so that's a good win. And then, as you know, the bonding authority was a big discussion for many of us, is that we have the ability to go out and do geo bonding. Requires you to have a public hearing, requires you to have public notification in the local newspaper. It cannot exceed 1% of your total taxable collections, or excuse me, assessed value, sorry. And we were at around $14 million, and there was discussions bringing it down to 15, which really impacted the larger cities in the state of North Dakota who have the ability to go up to between 50 million all the way up to about 84 million. That really handcuffed them. So that was defeated. I think they were trying to send us a message from the state level to make sure we're communicating with the public for some of the entities around the state that didn't follow it to the communication standpoint that I think the legislators expected. And other than that, we were able to keep the construction manager at risk in place. And then the last one was a weapons bill. As you know, we don't allow weapons in public operated buildings. There was some discussion about amending that language so that you could carry in public areas, but not where school events were taking place. And the issue that we have is all of our facilities have at some point maybe a school practice of a hockey arena on one side and a hockey club on the other, or at the soccer fields or even baseball fields. How do we police it? How do we have our staff know where you can go and where you can't go? So that was easily defeated. And it has been a good session, but a lot of bills that went through. The specific details are in your packet if you want to go through them, if you have further questions. But overall, we're pretty happy with how the legislative session played out.
Any questions on the legislative update for Cole? Okay, hearing none. Okay, we'll move. Thank you, Cole. We'll move on to item number 4. Authorized payment of monthly bills. Can we get a motion?
I'll make a motion to authorize payment of the monthly bills.
Motion by Commissioner Freilich,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Mutter. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Commissioner staff reports. Anything to add, Cole?
As I mentioned, the budget portfolios, if for some reason there's a conflict or whatever, let us know. There's some dates where a lot of staff are out on vacation the month of June, so we got to work around those if possible. Old Red Trail, Phase 1, our multipurpose trail, basically from Sunset past Baymont all the way out past Pepsi to 37th Street, I believe, is getting a mill overlay. We received that grant 2 years ago. That is the work is starting as we speak. They're starting to do some of the spraying to get that trails and some of that ready to go. One thing that changed in the grant is that in 2027 they're going to be doing DOT is going to be doing some construction work to the interchange, that intersection where the on and off ramps are located. We chose not to tear up the trail that leads close. There's a construction zone, I guess as I'd call it, for Old Red Trail and Sunset intersection where those on and off ramps are going to be. So we chose to get outside that construction zone. We're waiting for DOT to approve that. Otherwise, if we tear it up today, 2 years later, they're going to come back in and tear out probably about 50 to 100 yards of our trail. So being prudent of our tax dollars, we're trying to see if we can not do that portion. So it may look a little odd if you get questions from the public, as halfway up to that gas station, we may not tear that trail out, because in 27 it's going to get ripped out again for that Sunset interchange as far as on-off ramps. And then just a reminder, the boat ramp, as we know, we have the ribbon cutting. The weather was going to be kind of potential cold and rainy, but it looks like the rain percentage has dropped. If for some reason we're going to cancel, we'll let you know as early as possible on that day. And then May 29th, Dave I may be touching on that, but the Raging River's opening date is May 29th. And then we are at 300 kids for our summer MAC program. So that's the first we've been able to hit that number, and we're pretty excited. That's all I have.
Thank you. Garrett?
We're in full swing for the golf courses now. We had our first game day at Prairie West last week with good turnout, and today is our first ladies' day at Prairie West that had excellent turnout for the high heat temperatures today. We will be transitioning to mid-season tee times here as we approach Memorial Day, so full in-season swing. One issue that we had to work through this spring was our irrigation pump, our lone irrigation pump at Mandan Municipal was not operable coming out of winter. We lucked out and found one, but that was just installed last week. So Mandan Municipal had not had any irrigation until last week. My staff did a great job on hand watering, keeping greens looking alive and everything like that. So we made it through a tough patch, and we're ready to go now. So.
Garrett,
And
can
then,
you,
yeah,
I was going to say, can you give us timeline for the temporary green and the trees and?
Sure.
Okay.
We had the dirt stockpiled while the ground was frozen, so we could get trucks in there and not do more damage. Now, as staff has time, I'll start building that green here in the next couple weeks. We did start installing the irrigation, so some of the underground components are there at this point. We'll hope to get the green shaped and seeded in the next, month to 6 weeks, grown in by the end of the year. Should be ready to go for next season, and whenever that potential project happens with the levee, that green should be ready.
Okay, thank you.
I got a question for Garrett. So that temporary green, where that dirt is where that'll be, right?
The actual green will be slightly to the east of that. That stockpile there, so we can grab from there, build the green a little bit closer to the road.
What's the expectation if a ball lands on there, I guess, is where I was in the course of play.
While it's growing in, or even after it's open, just like as any other green surface, it'd be please take a free drop.
Yeah.
Unless you're in a
Fair
stroke
enough.
play tournament, which we don't have too many of them at Mandan Municipal.
That's a legitimate question. It is. Thanks, Garrett. Dave, anything else?
Like Cole mentioned, Raging Rivers opens May 29th. We're just getting ready. We have a new supervisor, Brittany Aukshall. I'll bring her here next month to introduce her to everybody, but she's doing a great job. Ice is going out as we speak right now this week, the Cadillac rink, and then baseball construction. We should be sodding here shortly, within this week or next week. The sod should be going in, and that should be wrapping up the project down there. So I think it'll make it look really nice down there. Hoping to have it closed out by June. So that's about it.
Okay. Attorney Ruff? Commissioner Mutter?
I just want to thank File Orthodontics for sponsoring the MAC program this summer, and I really appreciate all those people who help sponsor our stuff. So thank you, File.
Commissioner Freilich?
I've got nothing.
Commissioner Melhoff?
No report this month.
Commissioner Scott?
Well, golf, like Garrett said, is in full swing. If you look at the number of rounds already at Prairie West and at Mandan Muni, things are looking good for this early in the season. I mean, it's quite amazing, and the tee times are very, they switched it from midnight to 6 a.m., and if you're not on there at 6 a.m., you might be playing in the middle of the day.
And you extended the reservation period too? Is that,
Yep, we're now at 7 days,
7 days.
versus the 3 that we started out as. So, yeah, but tee times are filling up fast.
good. Okay. Future meeting dates for Park Board Commissioners, like Cole had mentioned, May 15th. Boat ramp ribbon cutting ceremony at 3 p.m. at the boat ramp. June 9th, Admin Portfolio and Audit Committee, noon at the Park Administration Office. Also on June 9th, we'll be right back here for our regular board meeting at 5:30. And then our upcoming 100-year municipal golf course ribbon cutting on June 25th at noon at Mandan Muni. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Motion by Commissioner Scott,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Mutter. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.